ago, when I first showed up to the TMI project writing workshop, I was too scared to speak. The workshop leaders handed out the first writing prompt. I was supposed to write a letter to my younger self, which I did, but when it came time to read, I couldn't do it. I was too self-conscious. I was afraid I'd sound like a sob story. Afraid if I shared my experience, everyone would think I only wanted attention. I've had some major hardships in my life. I've only seen my dad a few times in my life. My mom is an addict, and I can't rely on her for support. Up until recently, I was in the foster care system, until luckily I was placed with my grandmother. The only person I feel comfortable talking to is my school social worker, Megan. She helps me through all of my struggles. If I ever need a person to talk to, she is there. When I first moved to Ontiora, before I went to classes, she took me into her office. I felt safe as soon as I got there, and from that day on, I knew I had someone I could trust with my feelings. She has never given up on me, not once. She pushes me to do my best with everything. She always says this phrase, self-preservation. That phrase has stuck with me and has given me something to focus on. I've lost hope in myself, but she always knows how to make me feel better. I'm honestly glad that I have her in my life because I don't know what I would do without her guidance. But I'm not sure if her recent advice was very good. She's the one who encouraged me to sign up for TMI. Now I'm here and I feel so uncomfortable. I don't know anyone. When it comes time for me to share my writing, I ask if I can read to one teacher instead of reading out loud to the group. Rebecca and I go to another room and I read her my story privately. I return the second day thinking it will be just as hard to share, but I surprise myself. The first thing we do is get into small groups. I feel more comfortable opening up in front of just 2 other girls. By the end of the session with the small group, I've read all of my writing to them. I can't believe how good it feels to get it off my chest. When it's time to go back to the larger group, I'm finally able to tell them everything. Here's what I share with them. It's May 12th, 2017, a Friday night. I'm hanging out in the town of Woodstock with one of my guy friends. I didn't think of it being more than just a normal hangout with a friend, but I guess he does. I feel an awkward tension as we walk together, but I decide to ignore it. He asked me to hang out millions of times before, but I always said no because he's older. Well, not that much older. He just turned 19. It's an unusually warm evening, so my flannel is unbuttoned. I notice he keeps looking at me, my chest, but then again, I decided to ignore it. Later that same night, he does something to me that's honestly truly horrible. After he does that thing, I have to walk through the town of Woodstock at midnight by myself, passing drunk people and other creeps. Finally, I arrive at my friend's house where I'm staying. I don't want to tell anyone what he did, so even though I can tell my friend senses something's off with me, I tell her I'm exhausted and go to bed. I cry myself to sleep. The next morning, I go back to my grandma's house. My sister sees the hickey he left on my neck. I ask her to come back in my room so I can tell her exactly what happened. It's eating me alive. I ask her to close the door so I can tell her without anyone else hearing. The first thing she says is, "You slept with him, didn't you?" I start to cry and say, "No, that's not what happened." She's like, "Yeah, okay, sure, whatever you say," and rolls her eyes at me. "Bella, no, that's not what happened," I say. I take a deep breath and decide to speak up. "Bella, I didn't ask for it. He raped me." As I read my story, I'm terrified people are going to judge and criticize me. But after I'm done, people say how amazing it is that I've opened up about what I've been through. They say they can relate, they support me, and I'm proud of myself for speaking up. I want other girls who've experienced something like I have to know they deserve to share their story and never have to be alone. Yet again, I'm glad I took Megan's advice and came to TMI. I realized that if I had let my insecurities get in my way, I never would have had this experience. I never would have made the connections with my group, and I definitely would not be standing on stage sharing my story with all of you.